Gentleman from 12.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor. Thank you. Today, Mr. Speaker, I stand not necessarily in favor of a state exchange, but absolutely opposed to a federal exchange. I'm not here to negotiate on behalf of Idaho. I'm here to protect Idaho. When I talked to people when I was running for this office, this question came up many times. You know, if you were forced to choose between a state exchange and a federal exchange, which would you prefer? And everybody answered the question. Obviously, we feel that we can control these type of situations better on a local level. It wasn't controversial at the time. But there's been a case made for this third option, that somehow we can do nothing and there's no consequence to it. And I am more convinced than ever that that option doesn't exist. Let's make no mistake. A vote against 248 is a vote for a federal exchange in Idaho. A no vote will grant federal government authority to run a federal exchange in Idaho. This debate is about protecting jurisdictional authority in Idaho. If it were as simple as vote no to stop the exchange or Obamacare, we wouldn't even be having this debate. If my good friends that oppose this bill have a plan to stop a federal exchange, please share it. Still to this day, I haven't heard it. We talk about free market alternatives. Great. Let's see them. They don't, by definition, a free market alternative doesn't need our authority. Go ahead and do it. We hear the argument, if we just say no, the feds will stand down.
Probably good for a while.
What makes you think that that's the case? We have a president that was just reelected. He's got 4 more years to impose this law. There's no reason to believe that that'll be the case. The federal government doesn't back down from something because it's too expensive or it's too hard. People say, why now? It's simple, because before we come back to this House in January of 2014, we will have given the federal government the authority to operate an exchange in Idaho. Whether or not they've gotten to that point, we don't know yet. But we will have given them the authority to, if they do what they say they're going to do. What if the federal exchange isn't ready? Then we don't have to execute the state exchange. By passing 248, we forfeit no rights to continue to fight the Affordable Care Act. We can continue to fight those provisions. Specifically, the mandate. They talk about how it was improperly passed in the federal Congress. We can join those fights. We can still have those debates, and if we win, then we at least control how we get out. Again, if the law is found unconstitutional any time, that ruling will apply to all states equally. The exchange proposed today will not assess or collect tax penalties or assist the IRS. People talk about the 25 other states that are all saying no, like they're all saying no for the same reason. There are many reasons why these 25 states are saying no. They're not all saying it for the same purposes. Some have overpromised in their entitlement programs like Medicaid, and this is an opportunity for them to pass those responsibilities on to the federal government. What I can tell you is that none of those 25 have what Idaho has, and that's the lowest cost health coverage. That has to be protected. We don't protect it by giving away our ability to control the insurance market in Idaho. We've heard a lot of comments today from the opposition that we haven't gone far enough as far as legislative oversight. That's an argument that I may actually agree with. But by giving up the state exchange, we don't benefit that process in the future with the federal exchange. At least with the state exchange, we have the ability as legislators to come back every year and ask those questions of ourselves and see what needs to be changed. One of the major benefits, in my mind, to having a state exchange, again, because it's a protectionary measure, is to control how and when we get out, if we're able to get out. Yeah. If we are successful in any of these court cases, we pull the ripcord. If we're successful in future elections at a national level, because this is a national law, and the law is overturned, we pull the ripcord. We don't have to go to the federal government and say, pretty please, will you please shut it off? Idaho's not a pretty please kind of state. At least that's my belief. No state tax dollars are going to be spent on this exchange. If we wait, it could cost millions if we decide to go down this road later. We've talked about single payer as an ultimate strategy for the underlying Affordable Care Act. I agree with that. But ask yourself this question. What makes a single payer system more likely? 50 individual states in one federal exchange or 50 individual state exchanges? I do believe that we all share the same goal, and that's to protect Idahoans from the worst parts of the Affordable Care Act. It just comes down to how. Some members of this body have compared it to David versus Goliath, and in some instances I think that's probably a fair comparison. But the difference is, with the state exchange, the feds already have the ability to create an exchange without anything from us. They don't need our permission. They simply build it and turn it on, and people voluntarily go in, access it, put their information in, and participate. So to use the David versus Goliath analogy, it would be like David going into battle without a slingshot. We have no leverage. We don't even have a weapon to fight that particular battle. That doesn't mean we can't continue to fight the Affordable Care Act. It just means that with regards to an exchange, we don't have leverage on them. The other reason why I believe this is a protectionary measure is that one of the first rules, or one of the first things you learn whenever you're going into a battle or fight, is you have to get your hands up. To me, for the state of Idaho, a state exchange is simply the matter of getting our hands up. You don't do it to win the fight. You do it not to lose the fight. We're not going to block every punch. I'm sure we may not even win the fight. But our alternative is to do nothing, which puts our hands at our waists. We sit there and yell at them extra loud. And where I came from, that's usually how you got knocked out. That's not how you successfully protect and defend yourself. Personally, I'm glad this day has come. This discussion has quite literally sucked the air out of this beautiful building and institution. I look forward to being able to focus on the competitiveness of Idaho for business, education, transportation, anything where our energy actually helps Idaho and Idahoans. And I urge your support.